Well, it's finally that time of year again. The time of year where I get to take a look back at all the games I reviewed last year and rank them in order of the best. And no doubt this video is going to be long enough as it is, so I'm not going to delay it with a big introduction, so I'm just going to dive right into this. But before I do, let's take a look at some of the games that aren't on this list, but still hold a special place in my heart. These are the runners-up, let's go! DMC Devil May Cry. It may have a few weird preachy moments, and Dante's rebellious nature may get a little bit tiring after a while.
Yeah, whatever.
But it's still a pretty solid hack and slash. Plus, going with Devil May Cry tradition, the bosses kick a ton of ass. Resident Evil Revelations. A return to form for the Resi franchise, Revelations is tense, scary, and awesome. It still feels like a 3DS game at times, but either way, here's hoping for a sequel. This is the best Resident Evil has been since Resi 4.
Stop fooling around.
Sly Cooper, Thieves in Time. If you've seen enough of my reviews, you'll know that I'm a huge 3D platformer fan, so seeing Sly Cooper return on PS3 was fantastic, in what I believe to be the best Sly Cooper game yet, Grand Theft Auto 5. Ever since I did my review on GTA 5, I've given it a little bit of thought. I'm gonna be honest, I still haven't tried out the online mode yet, but when you get a few friends over, GTA 5 is like the most fun thing ever. It's not a game I'd ever choose to play on my own, but then again, you can say the same about Mario Party, doesn't make it bad. I still stand that it isn't entirely the kind of game for me, but performing stunts while going down mountains with the police or high above the ground never ever gets old. Batman Arkham Origins. Yes, I really did like this game that much. Arkham Origins was, for a long while, the number 10 spot on this list, but I ended up replacing it with, well, you'll see in a moment. I can't deny that it has its problems, but either way, more Batman is more Batman. If I can glide around new areas and interact with new bad guys, even if they are kind of semi-average bad guys, you won't hear me complain. Considering this is made by a different developer, it could have been a hell of a lot worse. They could have wanted to go in a different direction, take away all of Batman's abilities or something, kinda like the Chinese room did with Amnesia. But not only did they keep everything in place, they included what became to be the best feature in an Arkham game yet, at least for me. Batman Arkham Origins is more of the same, but that's not always such a bad thing. And now that we got those games out the way, let's get on with it. My top 10 games of 2013. By the way, keep in mind, some of the games on this list, my opinions might have changed on them a little bit. There are some games on this list I like a little bit more since I reviewed them, some games not quite as much. So yeah, keep that in mind. Anyway, on with the list! First up on the list is Puppeteer. Yeah, it's a little bit easy and slightly short, but really do I get to play a game with as much charm and creativity as this. It's like if you got Little Big Planet and Clonoa, mixed them together and adapted them into a Studio Ghibli pantomime. It's upsetting that Puppeteer didn't get close to the attention it deserved, making it probably one of the biggest sleeper hits of the year. And I'm literally writing this script side by side with my Puppeteer review, so I'm not really sure what I can say about this game that I haven't already. If you're the kind of guy who stopped playing games because you feel like they've kinda lost their way, like the innocent spirit of playing an exciting new game is gone because gaming is all commercialized and mainstream nowadays, give Puppeteer a shot. It might just remind you of a time gone by. Ni No Kuni. Never has a PS3 game made me want to go on a grand magical adventure quite like this, and leave it to Studio Ghibli and Level 5 to make that possible. It's like the Hobbit of video games, or at least it will be until the Lego Hobbit game comes out. There's just so much to like about this game. The characters are adorably charming, the world is colourful and bright, the music is fantastic. You can truly be any age and yet feel like a kid playing this game. Not many games can nail that, but Ni No Kuni is definitely one of them. It kinda has the same feeling of childhood wonder and excitement like Puppeteer does, except on a much larger scale. To put it short, Ni No Kuni is tidy. What do I mean by that? Play the game and find out. The Last of Us. Now before you pelt me because I'm putting this game at number 8, I do like this game, I really do. There is a lot of good to it. The chemistry between Joel and Ellie is fantastic, unparalleled. The gameplay is awesome. The graphics are incredible for PS3. But unfortunately, it's one of those games that I played once and then never played again. It just didn't really leave that big of an impact on me. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was good while it lasted, but once I finished the game, I thought, and moved on, not really wanting to play it again. But at the same time, I still remember it being a pretty fantastic game. Even thinking at the time, oh, this is so the number 3 spot at least. So if I'm not really that compelled to play it ever again, why am I putting it on the list? Because if any game can make me cry within the first 20 minutes, leave me speechless at the end and terrify me in between, that's gotta count for something. When I first started working on this list, I was reconsidering having BioShock Infinite on here at all. I mean, I liked it at the time, just like I did The Last of Us, but I wasn't really sure if it had a lasting impression on me. But when I heard this music, I knew BioShock Infinite deserved a place on this list. Granted, my opinion on this game has slightly lowered since my review, as I've slowly noticed problems with the game over time. For example, the vigors didn't really fit in the game at all. And yes, I'm saying vigors, not vigors like I kept saying in my review. Vigors. It kind of felt like they were put in the game because it's BioShock, it has to have plasmids, it has to. Not because it actually made any sense in the context of Columbia. They made sense in the first BioShock, as the player uses them as a means of survival in the psychotic world of Rapture, but here they're just there as an afterthought. The combat also felt a little out of place too. Seeing beautiful scenery like this, and this doesn't really mesh that well with this. Or this. Still, I'm not gonna let those problems sully my overall experience. BioShock Infinite is still a fantastic game, and I'm not just saying that because it was created by the Holy Lord and Saviour Ken Levine. Although that is one of many reasons. Call it a cop-out if you want, I don't care. It's a game that came out during 2013, so it can be on the list. Flower has always been one of my favourite games of all time. And I know I say that all the time, but Flower really took my breath away. And seeing it again in 1080p took it away all over again. I made Flower the #1 spot on my top 10 games to play when sick video for a reason. It's been proven time and time again on shows like Game Grumps that playing video games help you to open up a lot easier. They're a good outlet for therapy, and I believe there's no better game to support this than Flower. I know some of you watching this video will disapprove of a game like this, but if you put down your first-person shooters and sports games for just one moment and give Flower a shot, I think it could really surprise you. Only on one of my top 10s can we go from a game that shows nature in a clean, positive and uplifting light to a grimy, visceral and bloody light as it's shown in Tomb Raider. My god, is this game awesome. It's great to see Tomb Raider actually bite back at Uncharted and provide some competition for it once again. It's also nice to see Crystal Dynamics bring some realism to the franchise as well. Don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of the old Tomb Raider games, I always have been. But a T-Rex? Really? You're trying to sell a serious story with a T-Rex? Alright. Seeing Lara Croft, not as this perfect, busty, flawless acrobat, but as this vulnerable teenager who is forced into horrible situations to survive. I mean, sure, it's fun to play games where you play as a muscly badass who goes in guns blazing, but when I play games like this, I always find myself wondering, how would I fare in a situation like this? What would my reaction be as the average Joe? Not as this muscle-bound hero with a giant gun, just as me, Kane Bruff. Tomb Raider gives me the answer. When Lara first has to kill somebody, she doesn't brush it off. She breaks down and cries. When she first kills a deer, she can't help but repeatedly apologise to it as she cuts it open. There are many movies and games that try to depict the average Joe getting thrown into crazy situations, but I think Tomb Raider got it especially right. Oh, and something about the game being fun to play and the story being awesome. I don't remember. 10 years of hype and it still blew me away. There are not many games I can say that for, but The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker is one of them. There's just nothing wrong with this game to me. Sailing around on the sea is awesome. Fighting enemies is awesome. Maneuvering through dungeons is awesome. The game looks awesome. The story is awesome. The characters are awesome. The Wind Waker HD is awesome. There's nothing I like more in a video game than going on a grand adventure, meeting a ton of different people and going to a ton of different places. And this game did that for me. Surprisingly enough, I don't really have that much to say about this game without repeating what I said in my review, so I'm just going to summarize it with, this game is awesome. Rayman Legends, my god, this game is awesome. Combining lightning-fast gameplay with an incredibly stylish art direction, amazingly original level design and awesome soundtrack, gives you one of the best side-scrollers I've ever played. Gone are the times of Mario defining the genre with the new Super Mario Bros. Games. Michel Ancel has single-handedly revolutionized side-scrollers, and given us something that not even Mario and Sonic themselves can compete with. For someone who's grown up with Rayman all their life, it's great to see that Rayman is finally getting the attention he deserves, even if I would honestly prefer another 3D game. And what's even better, if you haven't had a chance to pick this game up yet, it's coming out for the Xbox One and PS4 pretty soon. So if you think this looks good, I can't wait to see what it's going to look like on a next-gen console. If you're a fan of side-scrollers, pick this game up. If you're not a fan of side-scrollers, pick this game up anyway. It might just change your mind. Even before this game came out, I knew it would be on the list somewhere. Nintendo are yet to ever disappoint me. Well, maybe except a few of the new Super Mario Bros. Games anyway. When Super Mario 3D World was first announced, I was scared it was just going to be a Wii U version of 3D Land. But oh man was I wrong. It's essentially Super Mario Galaxy, but just without the round planets. And a fixed camera. And 4 players. And a catsuit. Okay, it's not like Galaxy at all. The only complaint I was going to give this game is that it's a little too easy, but the game only really begins once you beat the final boss, and you're given 5 extra worlds. 5! All of them more difficult than the last. If you can beat Champion Road without using any power-ups, you are a more skilled gamer than I. Yeah, maybe I would have preferred a real 3D Super Mario game, but 3D World is just as fun, challenging, and engaging as any other Mario game. It's also reassuring to know that fantastic Mario games can still be made without Shigeru Miyamoto's involvement. And my number 1 game of 2013 is... Ace Attorney Dual Destinies. Definitely the best game I played in 2013. As a Phoenix Wright game, there are definitely some things I personally would have changed, especially with the way some characters don't act like themselves, as well as other stylistic choices. But for what it is, Dual Destinies is still a solid Ace Attorney game. It still has its crazy twists, hilarious characters, multiple storylines that intertwine and connect throughout the game, and another appearance from Troy Baker. How could you go wrong? To say Shu Takumi had no involvement in this game, Capcom did a surprisingly fantastic job, and it's one of the few franchises that they have thankfully yet to screw up. Apparently there is an Ace Attorney 6 on the way, in which case I want 3 things. 1. Shu Takumi returning to helm the game. As awesome as Dual Destinies is, it kinda lacked some of the charm of the original trilogy for me. 2. More old characters returning. I get that they had to use new characters for the game and it makes sense and everything, but I miss Maya and Gumshoe and Old Bag and Mike Meekins and Larry Butts and everyone else. And finally 3. You know it's coming. Physical release! I said it in my review and I'll say it here. Look at my collection. It looks incomplete now. You're doing it with DuckTales Remastered apparently, so can't you find it in your heart to do what's right, Capcom? I mean, it's not like Dual Destinies was a flop by any means. I remember it being pretty successful. There's clearly a demand for it, Capcom. Surely if there's a demand for DuckTales, there's a demand for bloody Ace Attorney. The fact that there are 2 more Ace Attorney games about to be released tells you that it is pretty popular to some degree. So why is it digital only? I'm sorry for going off on a tangent, but it's annoying to me. But either way, Dual Destinies is still a phenomenal game, and it's great to see Phoenix Wright back in action, even if he does have that stupid flicky bit of hair. And so concludes my top 10 games of 2013. I'm sorry this video was kind of late. Most people usually get their videos out in like January. It's like, what, the middle of February that I'm recording this, so God knows when this video is going to be out. But, you know, better late than never, I suppose. And now that this video is finally done and finished, I can start looking ahead to the great big releases of 2014. Like, for example, Rambo the video game. I'm sure that I've got my review out by the time you're seeing this, but by the time I'm filming this, I haven't got that game yet, so I'm sure that game looks like, you know, Game of the Year potential. And, Raven's Cry, for example, you know, the new game made by the people who made the, Two Worlds games, which nobody on planet Earth likes, but Sonic Boom, which looks a bit mediocre. There's a new Pac-Man game coming out, which looks, not bad, and the future's looking bright, folks.